What if I told you there was a child, a hidden heir, born of one of the greatest royal unions the Bible barely speaks of? A child whose existence could shatter everything we thought we knew about King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. This isn't just another ancient tale. This is a hidden fire, burning beneath royal splendor, diplomacy, and gold. And today, we're going to uncover it. Before we dive in, make sure to support our journey of rediscovering women history tried to silence. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, Women in the Bible, and don't forget to comment below. Do you believe history hid her legacy on purpose? Did you know that the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon may have had a son, a secret heir, born not in ceremony but in silence, hidden, forgotten, and yet destined? But to understand that story, we have to go back to a time when kingdoms moved with caravans, when knowledge was power and wisdom was gold. The Queen of Sheba didn't just appear in Solomon's life like a guest at court. She arrived with a purpose, and beneath her elegant robes and camels stacked with gold was a question burning in her soul. Is it true? Is the wisdom of this man divine? Sheba, her kingdom, was no minor player. Her homeland, whether deep in modern-day Ethiopia or across the seas in ancient Yemen, was a marvel of ancient power. Her people, the Sabaeans, ruled trade routes that made and broke empires. They dealt in gold, frankincense, and myrrh, the very same gifts that once greeted the Christ child centuries later. Let's pause here. Did you know those same treasures passed through the hands of a queen long before they were placed in a manger? Drop a comment. What do you think the significance is of that connection? But this queen, she was more than opulence, more than trade. She was wisdom in motion, a woman whose name echoed across the ancient world, not for conquest, but for intellect. They say her court was filled with philosophers, scribes, and royal women trained in statecraft. She didn't rise by chance, she ruled by choice. But one name disturbed the order of her world: Solomon. His fame had reached her far-off court, not just fame as a ruler, but fame tied to the name of the Lord. That mattered, because Sheba had heard of kings, but never of a king whose greatness was measured by divine wisdom. She could have sent messengers. Instead, she mounted her caravan. And oh, what a caravan it was, stretching across desert sands for months, with dozens of camels, hundreds of servants, chests of precious stones, and barrels of incense. Not for tribute, but for a test. Imagine this: a queen traveling through treacherous deserts for wisdom, not war, not alliance. Wisdom. Would you cross kingdoms for answers to your deepest questions? Let us know in the comments below. She didn't come to flatter Solomon. She came to challenge him. She came with riddles, with questions only the wise could answer. She came not to kneel, but to engage as equals. And Solomon, he was ready. She stepped into Jerusalem, not just as a ruler, but as a seeker. And Solomon, he welcomed her not with suspicion, but with a quiet knowing, because wisdom always recognizes when it is being sought sincerely. Can you picture it? The moment her sandals touched the marble floors of the king's court, the hush that fell, the tension that rose. Have you ever walked into a room where you knew you were about to meet your equal? The court of Solomon wasn't like any court she had seen. Polished cedar beams arched overhead like arms raised in prayer. Golden bowls held rare spices that perfumed the air. Servants in linen robes moved like shadows, trained to silence. And at the center, on a throne of ivory overlaid with gold, sat a man whose gaze held galaxies, King Solomon. He stood to greet her, but not as a man seeking flattery, as a man who understood that greatness bows only to truth. She looked him in the eyes, and he, her, two sovereigns, two thinkers, two souls forged in different fires, drawn together by divine appointment. And then, she began. Riddles, questions, puzzles layered with meaning. Tell me, O king, what is stronger than steel, yet can be broken with a whisper? What lives in silence, speaks in dreams, and dies in denial? Her voice was calm, but her eyes sparkled with challenge. And Solomon? He did not blink. With each question, his answer came. Not hurried, not rehearsed, but as if the answers had always been waiting in him for her to arrive. Steel yields to water, he said. Truth breaks the silence. Dreams birth destiny. And she smiled. Because it wasn't just what he said. It was how he said it. His words flowed like the architecture of his kingdom, balanced, intentional, majestic. He spoke not only with intellect, but with vision. Imagine sitting in that chamber, watching two of the most powerful minds of the ancient world circle each other in dialogue. What would you ask King Solomon if you had one chance to stand before him? Drop your question in the comments. She tested him for hours. Questions about creation, about the stars, about justice and pain and God. And still, he answered them all. The scriptures say, Solomon answered all her questions. Nothing was too hard for the king to explain to her. 1 Kings 10:3. But what the scriptures don't describe is what passed between the answers, the silence between sentences. The way she leaned in, not because she didn't hear, but because she wanted to hear more. And the way he paused, not to think, but to make room for her presence. This was no ordinary audience. This was a meeting of minds, yes, but also of souls. Two rulers, both burdened by the weight of destiny, finding in one another not a threat, but a mirror. And as the hours slipped into twilight and the chamber grew dim, she saw more than the palace, the food, the officials in their perfect order. She saw the heart of the man, and it overwhelmed her. When the Queen of Sheba saw all the wisdom of Solomon, the palace he had built, the seating of his officials, the offerings, she was overwhelmed. 1 Kings 10:4-5. Have you ever met someone whose wisdom left you speechless? Share that moment with us below. But was it just wisdom she came for? Or something deeper? Because beneath her crown, beneath her calculated grace, was a woman who had led armies, governed trade, commanded men, yet stood before this man and found something she had never encountered, a wisdom that wasn't learned but revealed. I have crossed kingdoms for this, and now I see. His mind is a mirror of heaven. He rules not by domination, but by discernment. He sees through me, not as a man sees a woman, but as one soul sees another. And Solomon, he saw her too, not just as a foreign queen, not just as a test, but as a partner in understanding, as a mind as vast as his own, as a presence that challenged his stillness, and perhaps even something more. The day was drawing to a close. The questions had been asked, the riddles answered, but what remained was silence. Not awkward, not empty, but full, heavy, alive, sacred. In the stillness of the royal chamber, something unspoken passed between them, something deeper than intellect, more eternal than politics. This wasn't diplomacy anymore. This wasn't trade. This was communion. Have you ever sat with someone, said nothing, and yet felt everything? Tell us in the comments, when was the last time silence spoke louder than words? The scene, royal chamber at night. The room was dim. Oil lamps flickered on polished walls of cedar and gold. The air was warm, filled with frankincense and breath. And in that quiet, Solomon turned to her, not as a king to a queen, but as a man to a woman who understood. In my palace of cedar, he whispered, I see not just wealth, but wisdom ordered, mercy shaped, power bridled. He looked into her eyes. And in your gaze, I see a mind that dances with truth, a queen not only of lands, but of thought. I traveled far, not just to test you, but to find something more, something my kingdom could not give. And in you, I see a man who does not merely rule, but listens, who does not dominate, but discerns. Their voices softened, but their souls, they roared. Two leaders, lonely in their greatness. Two hearts cracked open by revelation, because behind every crown is a weight, behind every title, a longing. They had both carried it alone, until now. Narration resumes, poetic, almost whispered. The stars above knew what the scribes would never write, that in that chamber, beneath the perfume of politics, two destinies touched, not in scandal, not in shame, but in understanding, in something sacred, in something eternal. And though the world would never name it, it would live on. What do you think bound them together? Power, purpose, or something heaven itself arranged? Comment your thoughts below. We're reading every one. The Queen of Sheba prepared to return home. The servants loaded her chariots with gold, with spices, with treasures overflowing from every trunk. But the most precious thing she carried wasn't wrapped in silk, wasn't weighed on scales. It was unseen, unfelt at first, but alive. Solomon watched from the upper terrace. He did not stop her. He did not speak, because some goodbyes are too holy for words. And she turned only once. Her eyes met his, one last time. May these treasures remind you of the journey we have shared, she had said the night before, and may the wisdom we exchange guide your path, as it has guided mine. She left Jerusalem with chariots full of treasure, but carried within her something far more precious. Not a jewel, not a scroll, but a seed, a covenant, a legacy growing inside her. The Queen of Sheba returned to her kingdom, but she did not return the same. The road back to Saba was long, miles of desert, nights lit only by stars, and silence that spoke more than the songs of her caravan. Behind her were the marble halls of Jerusalem, before her a palace of her own, but inside her a mystery, a sacred fire, a child, not just a child of flesh, but of covenant. The queen walked the halls of her temple palace, cloaked in gold, but silent. Advisors whispered, servants waited. The court wondered. She had not returned with a new alliance, not with treaties or war declarations, but with something invisible and undeniable. Within her grew the echo of a conversation that was never recorded, a union never declared, a life never named. And when the time came, she gave birth, in private, in prayer, in purpose. A son, she named him Bachem, the son of the wise, the child of mystery, the seed of two thrones. And though no scribe recorded the name of his father, his mother knew. And he, as he grew, began to wonder. He was different, too thoughtful, too composed. He asked questions other boys did not. Mother, what is Jerusalem? What is a temple? Why do I dream of voices that speak in riddles and men in robes of gold? She would answer gently, Jerusalem is a city built on wisdom. The temple is where heaven touches earth. And the dreams? Perhaps they are not dreams, my son. Perhaps they are callings. He walks like Solomon. His eyes see deeper than children his age. There is something in him I cannot teach, because it is not mine. It is his father's. She taught him justice like it was bread, truth like it was breath. She raised him not as a prince of luxury, but as a prince of responsibility. Mother, whose blood do I carry? She turned to him, finally, and did not flinch. You are the child of a covenant wrapped in silence. Your father is Solomon, king of Israel, son of David, servant of the Most High. The world stilled, even the wind stopped, and then The boy, now nearing manhood, stood, not in fear, but in resolve. Then I must go, not for wealth, not for power, but for truth. I must look into his eyes and know if they are mine. Have you ever longed to know where you truly come from? To understand the mystery of your own identity? Tell us in the comments. What question would you ask if you met the one who shaped your legacy in silence? And so he prepared. Not as a boy seeking approval, but as a lion stirred by prophecy. He carried with him camels, scribes, guards, and prayer. He wore no crown, yet walked like a king. Because when you carry Solomonic blood, you don't need to prove it, you embody it. As he crossed mountains and valleys, he whispered the words of his mother like scripture. Go to him, not for thrones, but for truth. Let your feet return to the place of your beginning. He stared into the flames. Father, I know you not by name, but I feel the echo of myself in your voice. I walk far, not for titles, but for the face that lives in my soul's mirror. And heaven watched, because what had been spoken in secret was now stirring to life. A legacy hidden was ready to rise. He arrived not as a child, but as a vision, heir to two kingdoms, messenger of a hidden covenant, carrier of a question that burned since his first breath. Who am I? The road to Jerusalem shimmered in desert light, but his steps were heavy with prophecy. His presence announced not with trumpets, but with silence that made kings tremble. He rode with humility, but walked with command. The scribes stared, the elders leaned forward, and when Solomon saw him, his eyes widened, not in fear, not in confusion, but in recognition. I do not know your name, the young man said, but I know your voice. It has lived in my dreams since before I had words. Solomon rose slowly from his throne. You are more than my son, he whispered. You are prophecy taking form. Scene shifts, the king and his hidden heir in private council. There were no ministers present, no priests, only two men and a sacred silence. They spoke of justice, of mercy, of thrones that rise and fall by the wisdom of their kings. But beneath every word was something unspoken, something heaven had planted in them both. You came not asking for power, Solomon said, and that is why it will seek you. You came not as a prince, but as a pillar, and nations will lean on you. Would you have the courage to look into the eyes of the one who never named you, but knew you? Let us know. Do you believe blood alone defines a legacy, or is it purpose? And then, Solomon prayed, not as a king, but as a father. O Lord, grant him a discerning heart, that he may govern with wisdom, that his throne may endure, not by deceit nor by force, but by design older than empires. And heaven stirred. The Ark of the Covenant was prepared, not in theft, not in betrayal, but in divine orchestration. The priests slept, but eternity moved. From Zion to Zion, from Jerusalem to the highlands of Sheba. Arise, O Lord, and go to your resting place, you in the ark of your might. Let your priests be clothed with righteousness. The glory shifted. Jerusalem did not mourn, because it did not yet know. The presence of the Most High was no longer tied to stone and cedar. It was carried in calling, in covenant, in continuity. He did not speak, he did not wave. He carried heaven with him, and with him a new name, Menelik, son of the wise, a name that would echo across millennia. Menelik returned to Sheba, not as a child hidden in shadows, but as prophecy fulfilled. With him was not only the Ark of the Covenant, but something even more powerful. A throne, founded not in bloodshed, but in blessing. From that moment, a lineage began, a dynasty that would stretch like the Nile, long and enduring. A legacy written not on scrolls, but on the hearts of kings and queens who came after. According to the Kebra Nagast, the ancient Ethiopian chronicle, Menelik founded a kingdom built on two pillars: divine favor, Solomonic blood. The ark became the soul of a nation, a symbol not only of Israel's past, but of Africa's calling. From the highland kings of Aksum to the lion-hearted emperors of Gondar, to the global legacy of Haile Selassie I, the 225th Solomonic monarch, this lineage lived on. Not in myth, in memory, in movement, in identity. From beyond the rivers of Cush, a gift shall be brought to the Lord of hosts, a people tall and smooth-skinned, revered from their beginning, whose land the rivers divide. That verse speaks of them, of us. Because what if the divine thread of legacy never broke? What if Africa was never outside the covenant, but carried it, guarded it, preserved it? What does it mean for you to know that the legacy of Solomon didn't stop in Jerusalem, but may still dwell in Ethiopia? Do you believe the ark still exists, not just in a chamber, but in a people? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This is more than a story, it's a search for belonging. For centuries, African royal narratives were erased, dismissed as legend, called myth by those who never understood. But within these stories lies something dangerous and divine: truth, identity, purpose. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, to search it out, the glory of kings. This isn't just about Menelik, or Solomon, or Sheba. This is about you, about what it means to carry a legacy, to be chosen, not merely crowned, to be called, not just remembered, to be part of something greater, even when the world tells you you're outside the story. The union of Solomon and Sheba was not simply romance, it was revelation, a bridge between Israel and Africa, between wisdom and wonder, between the seen and the hidden. And from their union came not just royalty, but responsibility, a torch passed from father to son, a story carried not just in blood, but in purpose. From Jerusalem to Aksum, from king to queen, from prophecy to posterity. So now we ask you, what legacy are you carrying? Are you the beginning of a new line of wisdom? Are you the answer to someone else's silent prayer? What if the thing you thought disqualified you was the very sign you were chosen? Share your thoughts in the comments, because someone needs to hear your answer. If this story stirred something in you, if it made you wonder or remember, then don't let it stop here. Subscribe to Women in the Bible, where forgotten voices rise again. Like this video. Drop a comment. What part of this journey hit you the deepest? And share this with someone who needs to know that their story still matters. Because the legacy of Sheba didn't end in the Bible. It lives in you.